Hey traders, welcome back to the weekly Forex Forecast. Yesterday, Jerome Powell finished the trading week with a speech at Jackson Hole, and he caused a big sell-off in the US dollar. Here's what he had to say.
As we highlighted in our last FOMC statement, we are attentive to the risks to both sides of our dual mandate. The time has come for policy to adjust.
The time has come, and these were the words that really caused that sell-off in the US dollar, cementing this September rate cut. And any pullback in the dollar this week is going to be viewed as one of the top themes I'm going to be looking for, dollar shorts, in today's video. And any move above the 101.47, this would be the area I'd be looking to short the DXY on the rip and coordinating, any kind of dollar short pairs with that. And you can also see we've got this momentum breakout below the prior low. So any pullback in this case would be a nice bear flag setup as well. So I am looking for dollar shorts as one of the top themes heading into next week. And we're also going to be looking, amongst other things in today's video, at Canadian dollar shorts, which I also think are some of the best opportunities heading into next week. Okay, so moving on to the portfolio selection part, and the Japanese yen is still the #1 currency to the long side in the hedge quantitative system. And I would point out that we also had yesterday not just a bearish catalyst for the US dollar, but also a bullish catalyst for the Japanese yen in the morning, where the Bank of Japan Governor Ueda came out reiterating the need to continue to raise interest rates in Japan. So going into next week, yen longs are at the top of my list, looking for yen long opportunities. Next to the long side, I do like is the pound. So the Japanese yen #1, the pound #2, and these are the two clear long themes to the upside heading into next week. Outside of that, we kind of got the Swiss franc and the euro, and out of those two, the Swiss franc is, in absolute terms, scoring better in the hedge system. So the Swiss franc to the long side is going to be the third currency or theme that I'm going to be looking at next week. And alongside, so what are we going to pair to the short side with those three currencies? Well, obviously, we're going to be looking at the US dollar, but I actually prefer the Canadian dollar shorts the best because they are actually underperforming even the US dollar in the performance metric. So a lot of this to do with the recent sell-off in crude oil, Canadian dollar as a derivative through the balance of payments. If crude oil goes down, there's less demand for the currency, and therefore the Canadian dollar tends to suffer, as crude oil goes down, and it tends to benefit as crude oil goes up. So I do like CAD shorts as the #1 short theme heading into next week. The US dollar #2, obviously we just discussed what Powell said, the exact words he used, the time has come, and this is why we're seeing weakness in the dollar yesterday, but also I think we're going to follow through into next week. Now, when I say that, I don't necessarily mean we're going to sell off and have another leg down next week. What I mean is we're focused on short positions. So if the dollar pushes higher, we can short it because really we should be viewing any bounce as corrective. So I do like it as the second short theme for going into next week. And alongside that, we've got the New Zealand, the Aussie, and the Euro. Now, personally speaking, although we have the New Zealand and the Aussie in absolute terms actually scoring less, they are moving in this direction. And the Euro, although it's neutral, is moving in this direction. So we could see those start to flip over early next week. And out of those three, I do actually prefer Euro shorts heading into next week. So to summarize then, we're going to be looking at, in today's video, CAD yen to the downside, US dollar yen to the downside, Euro yen to the downside. I also like CAD franc to the downside. I like US dollar franc to the downside next week. And I also like Euro franc to the downside, all of those risk off plays. And I also like pound CAD to the upside, which is risk off, pound dollar to the upside, which is actually risk on, and Euro pound to the downside, which happens to be risk on as well. But those are the top setups that I'm going to be looking at next week and what we're going to be covering in today's video. Okay, so kicking off the watch list, as always, with crude oil. And crude oil is a market I do like to the downside next week. I have been highlighting this market to the short side in prior videos, and we are continuing to make new lows in crude oil. Once again, short opportunities or nothing is what's on the table for me. I cannot buy this market. I wouldn't be surprised to see this pull back a little bit further next week, but any pullback in crude oil is simply an opportunity to look for one of three things, really. Either we're going to pull all the way back and breach the 77.79. If we do that and we start to push above here, this is where I would be looking to sell this on the pullback, as it were, above the 77.79. This is where we roughly run into odds of only a 30% chance of continuing above this level with any real significance. So roughly a 70% chance pausing or reversing lower. And if you want to know more about these levels, why we're using them, you can watch the strategy video on the channel where I go through not just the strategy, but what the levels mean and everything else in detail. So go and have a look at that. I'll put it up here for you. You can click on that and open it in a new window if you want to. But coming into this week, I am looking for a break for the 77.79 for a pause or reversal lower for 1 or 2 days. I'm looking to capture 1 or 2 days worth of movement out of these markets each week. If we blast through here, for whatever reason, and usually this only happens when you have a catalyst. So without a catalyst, it's quite rare, but if you do make your way through here and you take out this prior high, we're sitting right at prior lows as well over here, and you breach the 80.62, this is the second place above this level. I would be looking for a 1 or 2 day reversal. Now often, if I'm looking for a short, I will get involved in a short here, pushes through, I'm on the losing side of it, and I add to it over here. And this becomes on the pullback. You can see you can make, say, 1x here, and on the loss you make minus 1x, and that's how you can scratch those trades kind of during the week for break even. And I do this with members in real time every day, each week, and if I'm on the wrong side of it, I tend to cost average them. So that's the second thing I'll be looking for, but there's also something else you can look for. If you get a fast market during the week and you just get a kind of momentum sell-off, you can look for the sell-off and pullback, and very often in the 4 hours, as I always say, you get roughly one kind of bear flag down into the 72.12. Okay, so kicking off the Forex pairs with the yen positions, because the yen long theme is my favorite theme heading into next week. And starting, of course, with the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. So any pullback in this market, and you can see we've had such a big sell-off that the correction is starting to match it, but I still view any move higher as corrective. And any push into the 108.64, and I really like the fact we've got a prior high sitting right here. Because if you think about it, if you break through the prior high, there will be people who are attempting to trade this on a breakout. And if it doesn't go anywhere, if they buy, if it breaks this level and they buy, not only are we overbought intra-week above the 108.64, but if we break above here and it really goes nowhere, those breakout traders are going to cover their positions and they're going to exit their positions, and if they were long, they're going to sell their positions, and that's how you can get that kind of failure above this prior high and above the 108.64 with the market overbought intra-week. So I really like that setup going into next week. Going to be looking for 1 or 2 days down from above that area if I can get it. If we blast through there for whatever reason and test the underside of here and past that and into the 110.43. Above the 110.43, we become extremely overbought intra-week. And that's the second place I'd be looking for a potential short. Whether I'm already short or not, that would be the second place I'd be looking for a short. And the third thing, as always, you could look for is if you get that intra-week breakout, you've got a fast market. We don't test the upper bound. Instead, we just start to break out. We get near the target, pull back, and you can look for that bear flag into the 105.05. Below here, it's a good profit-taking opportunity for any intra-week shorts. Next is US dollar yen. Now we've got that dual catalyst from yesterday. So the BOJ coming out talking the yen up by talking about interest rate hikes, and then Powell coming out, the time has come for cuts in the US. So US dollar short versus the Japanese yen is definitely on my watch list, right at the top of my watch list for Forex next week. What I'd like to see is this pull back and breach the 146.86. Then we're going to become overbought intra-week, and that's where we could get 1 or 2 day snapback into this range. If we blast through here, there's also a second really nice setup above here. Now, if we do take out this up bound, I might already be short, but if I'm not, and we break above here, we become extremely overbought intra-week, the 149.34 roughly. This would be the second place I would be looking for a 1 or 2 day reversal in US dollar yen. And if we start to pull back, we fail to take out the upper bound. I think there's a pretty good chance we take out the upper bound in the yen pairs in this coming week. But reactively, we have to be reactive as well. And if we don't get that and we just start to sell off, you can look for the bear flag setup into the lower bound, and also in this case, very much into the prior low over here below the 141.90. And the final yen pair we're going to look at is Euro yen. Now, I really like this for shorts, and like the other yen pairs, we have some quite nice technical overlays onto the probable ranges. So if we start to push higher and we breach the 163.92 roughly, this is going to be a great setup next week because we've got a prior high here. I'd be looking for it to take out the high and then fail above that high for 1 or 2 days down. If we push through here with some depth, we could also have this technical low. So we get that stair step, momentum breakout, pulls back, test the underside. So this prior low, if we breach this with a bit of momentum and take out the prior low, that would be a great short right at this area. That's what I'd be looking for. Now, if we blast through for whatever reason and we take out the second upper bound, It's not really expected during the week, but if we become extremely overbought intra-week, this is the second place above the 166.24. I'd be looking for a 1 or 2 day reversal. And as always, you know, if you start to break out intra-week before you get there, you just start to pull back, you break out intra-week, you know, we don't take out the upper bound, it kind of just does this. Then you can look for that bear flag setup into the lower bound, in this case at the 159.25. Moving on to the pound pairs then, because pound longs are the second favorite theme that I have going into next week, primarily against the US dollar and of course the Canadian dollar. So starting with pound CAD, I can either be a buyer or do nothing. That's why the gold line is down here. I cannot sell this market next week. So any pullback in this market, what I'd like to see is I'd like to see this come all the way down and breach the 1.7722. We then become oversold intra-week in a market that I want to be long. And if we start to take out these lows in the 4 hours, we've got some nice support levels down here. We can start to look for lower time frame lack of momentum. So dropping down to the 1 hour, 50 minutes, 5 minutes, looking for that lack of momentum, especially if we become oversold and we start to trade into the support levels. And that's when I'd be looking for those reversal patterns, kickstarting 1 or 2 days to the upside. If we break through here for whatever reason, some unexpected catalyst, we end up coming all the way down to the 1.7588. Very often that means the market's actually reversed. But if that were to happen, it's always good, you know, you have to have a backup plan, because you could step in, buy this, and it can move against you. You know, you're always going to take losing trades. And if that happens and we breach the 1.7588, this is the second place I'll be looking for a long position to the upside, 1 or 2 day reversal. And finally, for those of you who like your Fibonacci's or your kind of breakout strategies, if you get that kind of momentum during the week, very often you get that kind of pullback and you can look for the bull flag setup. And you're not going to get the bull flag or a bear flag in every chart, but you can look for that pattern, because, you know, if you're looking at 10 charts, you might get it in 2 of them, right? And those are your trades for the week. So that's the third thing you can look for into the 1.79912 next week. Next is pound dollar. Now, obviously, this market really benefited from those words yesterday from Jerome Powell. The time has come. And we saw that big momentum spike to the upside. Now, I suspect that this is going to pull back probably early next week, because this is quite an extended move. So any pullback, I'm going to be looking for a breach of the 1.3085, a nice 4 hour low, also a prior high over here. So you could earmark this kind of area, also a prior high over here. You could earmark this kind of area below the 1.3085 roughly as a good opportunity to look for any long positions. We become oversold intra-week, looking for 1 or 2 day reversal to the upside. I would be very surprised if this happened. It's not expected, but if we did, for whatever reason, come down to the 1.2956, if I'm already long, I'll probably be looking for a cost average. And if I'm not, although I probably will be next week if we start to break down below this first lower bound. But if I'm not, this would be a fantastic initial position to the upside if we can break below the 1.2956. So those are the 2 main setups I'd be looking at, but you can also look for that, especially with such a strong market. You know, these kind of trends, very often you get those fast markets, they fail to pull all the way back and turn oversold intra-week. This is where you can certainly get, you know, more momentum to the upside and that kind of bull flag setup into the 1.3343. That would be a good profit-taking opportunity for any intra-week longs in pound dollar next week. And the final pound pair is euro pound. Now, I can either be short euro pound next week or do nothing. I cannot buy euro pound. So what I'd really like to see is I'd like to see this pullback. We actually have a momentum leg down. Look at this. This is a bear flag. Sell off, choppy pullback, and we break. But we break with momentum. Look at it drive through and continue lower. Not like, you know, breaking up, taking out the high and selling off. You know, breaking out the high and selling off. This is a real nice breakthrough. I would not be surprised if this comes back and stair steps the prior low. If it doesn't, we just get a breach on some volatility above the 0.8522. That's going to be the area I'm going to be looking for a potential 1 or 2 day reversal. If for whatever reason we reverse, you know, again, unexpected, but if we end up at the 0.8575, whether I'm short already or not, this would be the second place I'd be looking for a 1 or 2 day reversal. And third, especially a market like this where you've already got that nice momentum, we could very easily flag, perhaps even test the underside, and then start to sell off like this. And if we do that, you can look for the bear flag setup down into the 0.8416. Okay, so we're going to wrap up the video with the franc pairs and also euro dollar, which of course we do every week before moving on to gold and silver. The first franc pair that I like the most next week is obviously CAD franc to the downside. I can either be short or do nothing, cannot buy this market next week. What I'd like to see is very much like we looked at with the yen pairs. We're getting these big corrections. Now, if we pull back and we start to breach the 0.6346, what does that mean? It means we've become overbought intra-week. We're testing the prior low, although we've already done that. So you may see this go intra-week, but we've already done that. So if we do breach this again and we take out this high, that's going to be a fantastic place again. We start seeing those breakout traders above the high. Market doesn't go anywhere. They cover their positions, which is a sell if you've bought, and therefore we start to get that kind of liquidation above this high back down for 1 or 2 days. Very good setup. I trade this one all the time, and that is definitely one I can see that has potential for next week. Now, if we break through here, for whatever reason, we get a catalyst which drives the market into and above the 0.6418. If I'm already short, I'll be looking for a cost average. If I'm not short, I'd be looking for an initial position. That's the second place I'd be looking for a short in terms of being oversold or extremely oversold intra-week. So between the open and the close of the week, essentially, you know, in the week. And if we start to pull back, because we've already stair-stepped this prior low with this high, if we start to pull back, and maybe we actually breach the upper bound and don't take out the high, but if we start to pull back in this area, and instead of taking out the upper bound, you start to see that momentum coming in, you can look for the pullback, and you can look for the bear flag pattern into the 0.62016. Next is US dollar franc. Again, it can either be short or do nothing. Buying this market is not an option for me next week. And what I really like about this is you've got this kind of double tops. You've got the momentum sell-off. There's your prior low. There's your kind of coming down. We try and break the low, we fail, and then you get the momentum sell-off. And of course, this was on that kind of flash crash to the downside where we saw the yen spike in, we saw stocks selling off. We then get the correction, and we start to get this reversal pattern double top. Again, this is very much what I was just talking about, where we break the prior high, but because it's a counter trend move, those who are buying the breakout starts to fail, and you get the kind of capitulation, liquidation in the other direction. And in this case, I really like the fact we've broken the prior low. So there is your confirmed double top over here, kind of attempted over here. We come back, we test it, we break all the way down. We're now below this low. So any pullback in this market, it does set up quite a technical pattern as well, because if we breach the 0.85790, we become overbought intra-week. So now the odds of continuing much higher start to turn against us in this area. And especially if we push through here and stair-step the confirmation low of this double top pattern, because this is, once we break here, that's where the pattern's confirmed. If we stair-step this right in the middle, almost of these two levels, that would be a fantastic place to look for a 1 or 2 day reversal to the downside. If for whatever reason we breach this, although I don't expect it, and we start to trade above the 0.8678, we become extremely overbought intra-week. That'd be the second place. Whether I'm short or not already, I'd be looking for a potential 1 or 2 day reversal. And of course, if you start to break out, if we pull back, we start to make our way up towards the upper bound, but instead of breaking it, very much like this, we're pulling back, and then we start to get that momentum to the downside. You get the breakout, pull back, you can look for that bear flag setup into the prior low, but also if you can push through here down into the 0.8381. Now, if you do take this level out, below here, you've got a very good chance of actually pausing or reversing, you know, around that area. So below there starts to become unattainable. So very good intra-week profit-taking target for shorts. So the final franc pair is Euro franc. I can either be short or do nothing, and then we're going to look at Euro dollar after this. But Euro franc is also another market that technically sits or overlays onto these levels really nicely. So what I really want to see is I'd like to see Euro franc pull back, take out the 0.9576. We've got a prior high here. We also have another one here. So in this kind of area, very good technical, you could say this is a kind of resistance area between these two highs. If we start to breach this, we run into resistance and we become overbought intra-week, during the week. So that's a great place to look for a 1 or 2 day reversal next week. If we blast through, as always, you can see the underside over here. This would be the second place I'd be looking for a short-term 1 or 2 day reversal. Again, if I'm already short, I'm just basically risk managing a losing trade. But if I'm not, you know, for an initial position above the 0.9662, that would be a great opportunity for a short. And as always, if we're starting to just kind of consolidate, and maybe this is the pullback, you know, maybe there is not going to be any new highs. If that's the case, and this is kind of a one wave, and we're pulling back, we fail to make a new high, and you start to break out of this kind of second wave here, then, so 1, 2, fails to take out the high, starts to go, that's where you can look for that bear flag setup into the 0.9404. I'm wrapping up the Forex pairs before we move on to gold and silver with Euro dollar. We cover Euro dollar every single week, and actually I think this is a pretty good long play. So I am looking for Euro shorts and US dollar shorts, but relatively the difference between the two is quite large going into next week, and so we can actually still look for long plays in Euro dollar. And that really underscores the fact that yes, Euro franc to the downside, Euro yen, you know, Euro is a good short, but the US dollar is a better short and the Canadian dollar is a better short than the Euro next week. So any pullback, I can either be a buyer or do nothing. Cannot sell this market next week. I'd like to see this pull back, And if we breach the 1.1094, not only do we become oversold intra-week in a strong market, but we also start to take out prior support levels in the 4-hour chart. And this is going to be a great setup for a 1 or 2 day reversal in my opinion. If we break all the way through here and we take out the 1.09948, I don't expect that to happen, but if unexpectedly we do that, that would be the second place, whether I'm long already or not. That would be looking for a 1 or 2 day reversal higher. And of course, the final thing you can look for, because we've already got some momentum, I probably again think we will test these lower bounds, but we will see. Reactively, if we don't, and you get another momentum leg higher, you can look for that kind of Fibonacci or bull flag setup into the 1.1292, and that would be a great intra-week profit-taking opportunity or target for longs. Okay, so wrapping up the video with gold and silver, and the bias on these two should be pretty straightforward based on everything we've discussed in today's video. If we're going to get a weaker dollar, this is going to be a tailwind for both gold and silver. And so going into next week, I only want to be long gold or silver. I don't want to be short in these assets. In gold, we've got really nice kind of trend developing to the upside, high highs, high lows. What I'd like to see is I'd like to see this market become oversold intra-week. We pull back, we breach the 245736. This is going to be a great place to start to look to buy the dip on gold for a 1 or 2 day reversal. Possibly higher. This could be a good swing trade where we continue up, towards the 2005, 6-7, 2005-80 even over the next couple of weeks. But for me personally, I'm just looking for day trades, 1 or 2 days. That's what I'm trying to capture. So I'd be looking for 1 or 2 days up here. If we pull back for whatever reason, unexpected as it is, to the 240231, this would be the second place. I'd be looking for a 1 or 2 day reversal to the upside. And of course, in gold, you may well find that we're pulling back towards the lower bound. Maybe we stair step this prior high or we test this low. And then we just start to break out with a new this kind of consolidation breakout momentum, flag, and then a rally into the 2567.45. That'd be a great profit taking target for longs next week in gold. And last but by no means least, in this case, silver, because I do think silver longs are actually a very good play next week with weakness in the dollar. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this actually pulling back because the dollar's so extended to the downside that it may need to pull back and pause. But if that happens, and we see silver coming down, stair stepping this prior high in the 4 hours and breaching the 2860, it's going to be a great place that I'm going to be looking for a 1 or 2 day reversal to the upside in silver. If, as a backup, for whatever reason, we sell off, we reverse, we breach the 27.37, two really nice lows over here as well as support. This would be the second area I'd be looking for a 1 or 2 day reversal. And if I'm long, I'm just cost averaging it, trying to get out for break even. Or if I'm not already involved, this would be a great initial position. And of course, we might come down, maybe we retest this low and we kind of form this ABC, and then we start to get that momentum breakout before taking out the lower bound. That's the third thing you can look for. So a failure to pull back, either to become oversold or extremely oversold, you get that fast market breakout. You can look for a bull flag into the 31.06 in silver next week. So that is it from me for today, guys. As always, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, why not consider joining us in the GMT training room each day, where I look at the best markets as well as sharing real-time setups that I'm personally looking at trading with members as part of our GMT training program. Don't forget, you can also get a 2-week free trial to the cutting-edge hedge-trading app used in today's video by heading over to www.hedge-.com. Access to the cutting-edge hedge-platform is included with every GMT membership.